Today I want to talk about Sig P320s, but not in a way that most people probably would expect. If you've looked at the internet or social media in the last couple weeks, there's seems like rapidly increasing number of either instructors that don't allow them in their classes, don't allow P320s on the property as far as the range goes. The facility doesn't allow that pistol on their facility. Or practical shooting matches that specifically don't allow P320s in the competitions. So I haven't made any changes to policy at all as far as not allowing the guns, but I'm at the mercy of the range of the facility. And sometimes that's a thing where the facility does not allow those pistols on the grounds. So the question is, if you're a Sig P320 owner and your pistol isn't allowed in matches or classes, or in some ranges, what do you do? And from experience and conversation I've had, there's a lot of Sig P320 owners looking at different pistols, or selling the Sig if they can find somebody that wants to buy it, or buying an additional pistol. So what I've got next to me is a bunch of different options. I just want to kind of talk through them, what features I look for in a gun, and like I said, a variety of types of guns, just with some things to think about. So people work hard for their money. My first recommendation would be try before you buy. So if you have a friend with some different pistols, or I've got a friend with this pistol and a friend with that pistol, try all those guns or go shoot them if you can, just to see what you like or don't like. The other thing I think you should keep in mind if you are looking at looking at buying a different pistol is aftermarket support. So what do you want to do with it? And what parts will you need to change? Because most guns, you're probably going to want to do something. It doesn't have to be completely gutting the pistol, but things like extended base pads for, increasing the capacity of the magazines, changing the grips, whether it's adding a grip texture or removable grip panels. Most guns, I think at this point, are optics ready, or I'd recommend getting an optics ready gun. Iron sights are cool, but if you want to put a red dot on it to have the capability, what red dots fit the guns? Can you replace the trigger? Is the trigger in the gun good to go? Like, all that kind of stuff matters. And I think it should just weigh into your decision for what you buy. The most important part that I'll kind of highlight on each of the pistols I've got for you here is the grip. Because I think the way the gun fits your hand is the most important. The trigger, you can make lighter, heavier, change the shoe. If you don't like the sighting system, you can either milled for a red dot or buy a red dot or an optics plate. You can change the sighting stuff. The magazines, for most of the reasonable choices, somebody makes an extended base pad. But if the gun doesn't fit your hand or you can't reach the trigger, that's going to be the biggest deal breaker, at least in my opinion. So the gun I chose to start with is a Glock 47. Man, these guns are popular, but for good reason. There's a lot of good things about it. The biggest problem I have with the Glock, and this one probably has the most aftermarket support, I think, of any gun, is the grip. So this is just a chopped Glock factory backstrap. Got a couple Glocks with that Curol, I think is the name of how you pronounce it. Lock Grips, L-O-K. Grips is selling a different backstrap to give you some options for different grip angles, but kind of trying to make the Glock more usable for people. The way the Glocks come, I can get my hand around the controls just fine, but the grip angle, they just don't fit my hand well, and I end up with a fair amount of tendonitis just from shooting these guns. So I still shoot them some if I need to. Having a back strap or something that changes the grip angle is definitely a big plus for me. But this gun, if I'm looking for a main gun to train with, this would not be my first choice. Like I said, the reason is, well, looking at it, it's got the most aftermarket support probably. They're relatively inexpensive compared to some of the other options, but I can reach the trigger, I can reach the controls. The grip's just not quite right for me. So that one thing is a bit of a deal breaker. However, Glocks are a super solid choice, and like I said, triggers, extended magazines, you can change the grip somewhat, optics ready, iron sights, all that stuff. There's tons of support. So Glocks are a good choice. If I just had to give a short list of stuff that I think you should do to a Glock if you have one or interested in one, obviously, I think the MOS is just the easiest route. Getting one that's already just set up for an optic from the factory, so you don't have to direct mill it, don't have to pick a specific footprint, because right now I like the Holosun 507 comps, what's on this gun, but maybe Holosun has a new red dot in 6 months and it's got a different pattern and I need a different plate. So by not having a direct mill gun, I mean, maybe those are solid, maybe they aren't, but by using a plate system, you can change optics if you want to. I think it makes the gun a bit more timeless, so to speak. I'm not saying guns are forever purchase, but for some people they are. So quickly, just like a best of breed or my choice of stuff. For optics plates, I like the Arise manufacturing plates. Jordan from Arise has 2 different models. One's an Aegis, one's a Lowrider. The Aegis one has kind of a metal shroud that goes over to protect it. I don't have a need for that. I don't do anything cool. So I just like the Lowrider plate because it mounts the dot low. They're good price point. It comes with all the hardware and no issues. For trigger, it's be the next thing most people replace in Glocks. My 2 choices right now are Apex and Tactical Trigger. I don't know. I'm still testing this Tactical Trigger. I like it, I think, as well as the Apex. It still needs to get broken in some, but those 2 would be my choices. For magazine base pad, I would strongly suggest you look at Henning Group. I know Henning personally. I pay for all this. I pay for all the stuff I get from him, but he's just a super nice guy, and the product's really good. So anyway, Henning Group are the base pads I like. The next one, maybe not the most popular that gets as much love, but there's a cult following for them, is Smith & Wesson M&P. This gun was a police trade-in I got from AIM Surplus that had iron sights on it. So this one, I got a good deal on it, and I think it was like $280 or $270. And then this gun got a direct mill on it from Stonebridge Gunworks. So this one is locked into one footprint. I chose the RMR pattern, which takes the Holosun 507 comp, SRO, the RMR, and I'm sure there's more that take that pattern, but it's a popular pattern, so that was the one I chose to go with. Other than that, this gun's just stock, but most people, there's a lot of love for the Apex triggers on these guns, so this one's the hinge trigger that really seems to trigger people. I still shoot it actually pretty good, but at some point the trigger might get changed. But the Apex, I would say, is the best of breed for this gun. The cool part about the M&Ps are, try to get good angles. If you turn this little piece in the back and pull this little gizmo out, you can change the back straps on the guns. They come with, I should have grabbed them, I think 4 different back straps, and you just change them to fit which one fits your hands the best. Oh, I should have mentioned, the Glock comes with different back straps also, but it's not quite as good. It's just this piece, which kind of increases the length from the trigger to the back strap, but not width or anything else. So these work okay, but I think there's other systems that are better. So in that regard, I think the M&P system is superior. Like I said, 4 different ones of these. I think this is the small. Yeah, small. Normally I'd be like the medium size would be the one I'd go with. But the reason I chose this was it actually, the thicker ones, actually, we're adding this grip piece. It makes the grip higher. And I should have grabbed one to show you. I apologize. But basically, the grip would be like fatter just through this grip section. And then it goes lower back to the part that doesn't have the grip panel on it. And I really dislike that. So I chose the small one just because this feels kind of more uniform in just the diameter of the gun. But M&P bros, I'm sure you'll be in the comments letting me know what your favorite backstrap is. Anyway, these are a great pistol. Good aftermarket support. Like I said, for triggers, you just buy the Apex. I like that you can change the back straps, though, and they do feel a little bit different. So depending on your hands or preference, to make sure you could release or reach the trigger. I don't think reaching the mag release without shifting your grip is a big deal. Most people have to do that. So I don't care about hitting the mag release in a way that I don't have to shift my grip or the slide stop. But obviously it's important that you get to the trigger. So feature I'm looking for is just changing the back strap, making sure I have enough area for my support hand to go on and contact the gun. And like I said, Apex triggers are probably the one that gets the most love from this. And like I said, Smith & Wesson guys, they like this gun. So that's another good choice. The next one of my favorites, honestly. Walther PDP. Another good choice. So, things that I like about this. Neutral grip angle. It has interchangeable back straps. I should have grabbed one that's not silicone carbided up. But basically this, kind of like from here down, this little back strap comes out. You just punch one pin through right here. This piece comes off, and you can change them to different sizes also, which increases a little bit in size, but mostly from front to back also. For my guns, I leave the medium back strap in it. It feels just right for me, but again, preference. The one plus about this gun, well, there's a couple pluses, but the triggers in the guns are good to go. There's a dynamic performance trigger, which is this one, the flat trigger, or the regular, I don't know. The other option they make is, I should have grabbed one. I already got so many guns on my desk though. It's a flat, or the shoe itself is just a little bit wider. So this one has a flat face. The shoe of the other one is curved and wider, but the trigger pull weight itself is about the same. So I think that'd just be a preference of which one you like the feel of better. I really prefer the dynamic performance trigger. I feel like it just hits my finger at the right spot, and it's easy to reach the trigger. So I like the reach, and this trigger's a little bit thinner. So it's just an easy one when I draw the gun. Feels good in my hands, and I can reach the controls well. With this gun, I'm going to have to rotate my gun a bit to hit the mag release. Not a big deal. I do that, like I said, with every pistol I own. The other nice part with the Walthers, they come with one optics plate. Well, you get one optics plate for free. In the box, they don't come with any at all. But if you go to Walther's website, which I don't know if they always market that well or explain that well, but if you just Google like Walther PDP free plate or something like that, it'll go to a Walther's website where you type in the serial number of your gun, you pick which pattern optic you want, and they send you one plate for free per each serial number, basically, gun that you get. So you just pick which pattern you want, and the optic plate that comes with the guns are good to go. I've used them, 50,000 rounds on one of the guns with the factory plate, and it was like no big deal. Since then, my friend Jordan from Arise Manufacturing has sent me some plates, and I put them on my Walthers, and I like them. Overall, yeah, Jordan's plate is probably a better product, but the factory plates do work totally fine for duty use or whatever you want to do with it. I think they're good to go. So, of the options I've sent you or showed so far, the Walther, I think, has a bit of an edge just because the trigger is good to go. It's plenty light and crisp. Depending on if you like the wider, or it's a little bit, I think, less expensive option with the wider shoe, or if you get the dynamic performance. In terms of weight, they're both more or less, call it within a half a pound of each other. Light enough triggers, good resets, all that kind of stuff. So factory triggers and plates are good to go on this gun. This one's just got silicone carbide added, so just to add kind of a skateboard tape like permanent feel. But otherwise, this gun's basically stock. The only thing I do think needs to get replaced in these guns is the recoil spring. They're a bit oversprung, so I changed these to a 15-pound captive guide rod from ZR Tactical, and that's really the only thing you need to do out of the box. Otherwise, the guns just work. For aftermarket support, there's a handful of different manufacturers that make extended base pads for them. The ones I use are from Henning Group. That'd be my strong preference. But if not, Taylor Freelance, there's a bunch of different companies that make them also. But the Henning Group stuff is just the one that I like the best. Moving up from that, I showed you some polymer guns. Talk about some steel frame guns. The Walther PDP steel frame is quite choice. It's more or less similar to the gun I just showed you in about every way, with just a few subtle differences. So same trigger, good to go. Same plate system. You can buy aftermarket or the ones that come from the factory. Good to go. I should have mentioned the iron sights on these are Glock 17 pattern sights. If you want to put iron sights on it, Glock sights are plentiful. The two things that are kind of different about this gun are, one, it's steel, so it's heavier. If you're going to carry it all day, probably, or a duty belt, probably not my first choice, just to the added weight. But for shooting it, yeah, the gun's a little bit heavier, so it does probably have a little bit less felt recoil for most people. The other big change that I like is the grip handles. On this gun, they're actually removable. So you just remove 2 screws on each side. This whole grip panel slides off. And you can get aftermarket grips from Lock. I know makes grips, but I'm sure there's other companies that do too. And all I've done to mine is I just use the factory grips that I put silicone carbide over to give it a little bit increased traction and increase the diameter just a tick. And that's it. Otherwise, this gun's completely stock also. All I did was just change the guide rod to a ZR Tactical 15-pound captured also. Oh, and I suppose in a few of my guns, I've changed the trigger return spring just to mess around with it. But I don't know how much of a difference it made. It's that little trigger, or that little spring. You can see down there. I've changed that out in a couple of my guns just to see if it made a difference. And it's maybe a 1/4 pound difference. It's almost negligible. So otherwise, the Walther pistols are just good to go out of the box. And I think either the steel frame or the polymer frame are very solid choices. Just because, like I said, you don't have to do much to them. People don't complain about the OEM triggers. The optics plates are good to go. It's just a very sensible choice. The last group or kind of type is DASA guns. This one is a Tanfoglio Stock 2. I use this pistol, or shot this gun, a lot when I used to shoot in production division in USPSA, which is an iron-sighted division. Now they make optic-ready models. I just don't have one because I don't have a need for one, honestly. But this one or the CZ Shadow 2 would be the other one I'd consider if you're a practical shooting or competition-minded shooter. It's pros and cons. It's kind of what you like. The grips on either pistol are replaceable, so you can get different style grip panels. This one I've used palm swells. Is what I had on it. And if you can see, there we go. Kind of a high spot through the middle. So the idea is it fills in your palm area a bit better. It gives you a little bit of a shelf. It does increase the surface area. So more area to put my support hand on just because the grip's bigger diameter. These are Lock grips is who makes these. The pattern for this one's full checker, but they make a bunch of different styles. But pretty cool because you can change the grip panels. You can mix match, have a different one on the left side than the right side. So for the Tanfoglio Stock 2 or the Shadow 2, the pluses are aftermarket support, especially on the Shadow 2. You can make the triggers as light as you want to, change the grips, all this stuff. For the other requirement, I would think if you're going to get either one of those, is get an optics-ready gun. This is a gun from kind of before red dots were very mainstream. So this is an iron-sighted only gun. I'd have to send it off to get milled to put a red dot on it. Otherwise, I would suggest just buying the optics-ready version of whichever gun you like. At this point, I think the CZ Shadow 2 makes the most sense over the Tanfoglio just because of how much they're used and how much aftermarket support there is. But there is some aftermarket support on both. But for those, a wide variety of base pads. I prefer Henning Group for those also, but everyone and their brother makes Shadow 2 or Tanfoglio base pads, all that kind of stuff. You can change recoil springs, main springs that change the hammer. The other kind of the big plot twist from this gun compared to the other guns I showed you is this one's double action, then single action. So for the first pull, it's a heavy double action trigger, or heavier. Then after that, once the gun cocks, you have a lighter, shorter single action pull. How much you tune those is kind of going to be up to the person. You can get the double pound or double action pulls down to normally somewhere in the 6-ish range, being reliable. And the single action, people get scary light with them. I think somewhere in the 2 to 3 pounds makes the most sense, but you can get them as light as you want to. So if you're heavily looking into a practical shooting style gun, the Shadow 2 or the Tanfoglios are very popular. So with all that said, kind of just some things I think about when I'm buying a gun. Notice on every pistol, the main thing I was talking about, at least in my brain, is the grip, because that's, to me, the most important part. Finding a gun that fits my hand well. Then once I find one that I like the feel of, or that has the modularity to change the back straps, then I'm looking at aftermarket support. What do I need to change? Is the gun good the way it comes? And, man, I don't mean to be a Walther salesman. I don't get paid by them or anything like that. Man, I should be getting paid. I'm joking. But those guns are really just good to go out of the box. For everything else, the guns I encounter, you're probably going to want to change at least something. The Apex, or the M&P, most people complain about the trigger. There's probably something 9 out of 10 people change. For the Glocks, you could just change the striker spring to a 4.5 pound. Maybe do something with the grip and be good to go with that. But some people love shooting the Glock stock. So it's kind of just going to be up to you to try them and see what fits your hand the best, or what features you are looking for, or what needs you need to fill. The last one that you should look into is holsters, depending on what you want to do with it. So, quick story. When I was shopping for a 40 caliber, I have some access to some 40 caliber ammunition that needs to get shot. So I was looking around for a 40 caliber pistol, and I was planning on just shooting the gun stock, but I wanted to put a red dot on it, and I needed to find a holster. So I started looking at the options. And truth be told, I was actually heavily considering a Sig 226 or 229 in 40 caliber. But I did some more looking. I was like, oh, a regular 226 holster doesn't always fit. The current Sig 226 isn't necessarily the same as the older style. 40 calibers, like the 40 caliber has this much, a little bit wider slide. And I start looking, I'm like, can I even find a left-handed holster for this pistol? And for the guns I'd found, like again, I thought, having a 40 caliber 226, that'd be cool. I like the 226 gun. It's kind of a nostalgia gun, but a gun I've always thought's cool. I couldn't find a reasonable holster source, honestly. So I was like, nope, that is a no-go, which was part of what sent me to the M&P, because it's like, hey, this is 40 caliber. Can I find 40 caliber magazines? Yep. Is the holster different from a 9mm? Can I find a left-handed holster? Can I find magazine pouches still for that pistol and that caliber? Are they available? So you kind of just look at, like, can I set the rig up? Is the rest of the stuff available to be able to get a holster? Or if you need retention, does Safariland make a retention holster for a Sig 226 or 229? What if I mill it for a red dot? Could that even fit in a holster? It's like, nope, it'd probably be something open top. So again, lots of options to think about, but hopefully this gives you at least some direction if you're in the market for, due to necessity, changing to a different platform. So if you have questions or comments, drop them below. I'll try my best to answer them, or if I don't know the answer, at least send you the right place to look. But just want to give you some thoughts, because people work hard for their money, and if unfortunately you do have to bail on the platform you're shooting, or you're just in the market for a new one, when you pick something, it's nice to be the most informed, because, like I said, people work hard for their money. You don't want to get a gun and decide it doesn't do what you want it to do, or you can't find a holster anywhere for it, or the trigger's unusable and no one makes any aftermarket triggers for it or anything like that. So appreciate you watching. Like I said, drop it down in the comments. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer it. And have a good day.